Hey, this is Wookie from Mandala Studios, welcome to the workshop. In today's video we're showing you how we'd made a foam Santa beard and wig for a Santa hat we had lying around. We did this as we do all our holiday shows in one afternoon, and it was something I'd never done before, so I wanted to learn to see if I could do it. So to start with, we need to make a skull cap to base everything off. So we cover a random head form in tinfoil. This head form was chosen because we guessed once we'd put the foam on, it would be about the right size to fit in the Santa hats we had lying around. So we cover it in tinfoil, then we cover it in some parcel tape to give us a structure to work from. You see I'm only covered half the foam, half the head form fully in tape because I only need half, so I'm going to mirror it. Then we draw around the lines we think we're going to need to create the skull cap. You'll note I've gone quite high on the forehead because we want to leave space for the fringe of the hair. Then we cut out the piece we've made, and then we're going to mark on some bits we think are going to give us the position to create the curvatures. So to do that, we just put a line on what seems to be the highest point of the curvature, and then we mark it out with some registration points, and we're left with a couple of pieces. Then we cut some darts in to flatten out those things, and I tend to put those marks on the registration points. We trace out the piece. You'll note the little triangle on the bottom there. That indicates that a split in one pattern piece meets that registration point there, rather than just another registration point, so I know what I'm talking about. So once it's all traced out onto the paper, we cut it out, and then we can trace that onto a sheet of foam. Onto the foam we trace using a wide biro, a 1.6mm biro. It works really well at writing onto the foam we use. And we trace all the parts out and then cut them out. Always best to use a really sharp knife, and we just whip round and cut all the lines out, trying to keep the knife blade as vertical as possible. Cut out all the darts, and repeat on everything else. Once you've got all the pieces cut out, heat the foam up and push it over a former to get some curvature to reduce the strain on the seams. I use a plastic ball filled with plaster because it sinks the heat away faster. Then we smear some glue on the inside of the darts. We're using a contact adhesive. I like to smear it using a palette knife or a butter knife or something. Glue that in, leave it to dry, then push all the seams together. Then go around and glue all your long seams for each half of the piece. Again, smear glue a little bit, leave it to dry, and once it's dry for about a few minutes you can push it together. You just push it together, make sure you line up the outside edges. You'll note that we drew all of our pattern pieces backwards from the way we originally made them, so that all our drawings were on the inside of the white foam. Handy if you can do that. We could in this case, so we did. And there you go, one skull cap put onto the thing. Then we started to rough out patterning the beard. We did that, we just got a bit of scrap foam and just taped it onto the head and just sort of marked out roughly where everything we needed to go, so we got an idea of size and scale. And we cut that out, folding it in half to get an idea of how it worked. Then we traced that onto a bit of card paper and started to sketch, using a reference, the imagery we wanted to see. We just found a piece of art online. Then we trace around our rough biro marks with a bigger marker so we can see which one creates which layer. And we cut all of those out individually, so we've got individual pieces to make up into layers. Then we added a little bit on the back edge of each of them, apart from the top one, so they could underlap each other. Trace them all onto the foam, again using our biro, and cut them all out. It's always handy to label them. When cutting out foam like this, I always try and work from inside of corners to outside, so I don't get annoying overlaps into the corners where angled knife blades will cut. Again, always use a sharp knife. Now, to get some interesting shape to the piece, we're going to bevel it with a router, so we draw some lines on, then with a pointy bit we just cut along those lines halfway through the foam with the router, add some glue into the back of the thing, then leave it dry, heat it up a bit so it's everything soft and pliable, and squeeze it all together so we get some nice crease forms going across the front of the hair. Then we needed to assemble all the pieces, so to do that we pinned them all together so we knew where everything was going, and allowed us to counteract the twists that had been formed by the irregular routing. Then we just glued them together piece by piece using a hot glue gun in this case. We could have used a contact adhesive, but because we didn't know everything was quite going, we wanted to work just from the back and didn't want anything showing on the front. We added some Velcro straps, just riveted on, so that we could fix it onto the skull cap and make it removable. Adding the moustache, we just again traced out a piece from a rough pattern thing, cut it out of the foam. Again, we'll hit it with the router to get some bevels in a minute. And we just glue those bevels together, leave it dry, heat it all up, then squeeze those together to get some interesting shape. Then what we did is we heated the whole thing again and bent it over the hot heating bending form to get some volume to it. Now we needed to add a layer of hair to make the fringe, so we again went to the process we did at the start, wrapped it in tin foil, covered it in tape, so we could build up where we wanted to be. Across the back we folded the foil in half to get a bit more structure, then ran around with tape. So we just drew on a vague idea of where we were going, what we thought it would look like, making sure to dodge the ears. Then we cut all that out. We split it up the back, then traced where it was going to glue onto the thing underneath. Cut it out, trace that onto the pattern paper again, and then go around, draw it with a thicker marker, and just refine all our lines, add some more details, get the hairline to be more interesting than the shape we want. We cut that out. And once it's all cut out, we double check it for fit and look. It looks good, covers the strapping. So we add a bit of extra onto the ends so we've got more material to deal with the thickness of the foam wrapping around, and we cut it out. The foam we're using is just a white plastazote LD45 because we had it lying around the workshop. We often use LD45 rather than EVA. It's got more bounce to it, which is helpful for the work we normally do with it. So once that's all cut out, again test fit, pin it in place. We're just going to mark up the back, cut so that it's a perfect fit across the back, and refine the back edge of the hairline so it all lines up neatly. Mark exactly where it's going to glue in place, then mark where we're going to put the router bevels and hit the bevels. You can adjust the depth of the router bit and the width of the router bit to get different types of bevels. Further through the foam gets you sharper bevels. We went about halfway through with a right angled bit. And squeeze all those together. Add some glue and glue it in place, making sure to position it so that the bits that go over the strapping cover it nicely. Add some heat to bend it all into shape, it was lifting out slightly. Then we just added an extra piece to cover that seam at the back. Same process as before, rough out a pattern, and there we go. There's our finished Santa. Hope you enjoyed that. Thanks very much for watching, Happy Christmas, all that good stuff. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks a lot, bye.